Tell me why it feels like I'm working so hard, but I'm still struggling to keep money, to save my money. Honestly, because I used to think back then, before I got to the UK, that if I started earning in pounds, I would finally know what it feels like to have money. You know that feelings? That was honestly how I pictured my life when I was back home. I thought about the salary, I thought about how I'll be converting my pounds to my currency back home. And every time I did the calculation in my head, the numbers looked so good that I could think, oh, once I start earning this kind of money, saving wouldn't be difficult anymore. And because I believe that so strongly, I never really thought about what could happen after the money arrived. I only thought about the money coming in. I didn't think enough about everything that was already waiting for it when it got there. I didn't understand that until I actually started getting paid. I remember seeing my salary come into my account and feeling this little sense of relief. It was almost like, okay, I'm here now, I'm working, I'm earning pounds. Things are finally going to start getting better for me. And for that moment, I really, really believed they were. But that feelings didn't last very long. Believe me, because the moment the money came in, it already had somewhere to go. And the first place it has was something that I couldn't negotiate with, which is my rent. Oh my God. The rent came and was taken care of. There were other bills. Once the bills were dealt with, there was food. And once I thought I had finally accounted for everything, there was transport. And when you have children, you quickly realize that your monthly expenses don't stop with the things you have written down, because there are always little things, something they need, something you forgot to budget for, something that suddenly becomes important. And that's how I started noticing something that confused me completely. My money wasn't disappearing because I was buying one huge thing. It was disappearing because life kept asking for little pieces of it. I don't know if you get what I mean. And those little pieces didn't feel like something much leaving my account. But by the time the month was coming to an end, they became a very big piece of my salary. And that was when I started having the same conversation with myself almost every month. Okay, next month I'll do better. Next month I'll save. Next month, I'll be more careful. Next month, I will make sure there is something, there's something I left in my account. And because I really meant it, every time I said it, I will start the month feeling hopeful, But then the new month will bring will bring the same responsibilities. And that's when I realized that saying I will save next month is very easy. But when you don't know what next month is bringing, it becomes very difficult, because you can plan your money, but you can't always plan your life. And my life had a way of reminding me of that. I could sit down and decide that I was going to put a certain amount of money away, but then something could come up. And suddenly, the money I had planned to save had another rent that would take it up, had another bill that could take it up. And when you're a mom, those decisions can feel very different, because if it's something you want, you can tell yourself, I'll wait. But when it's something your child needs, waiting doesn't always feel like an option. And that was when saving money started feeling less like a simple financial goal and more like something I was constantly fighting myself with every day to achieve. Because I wasn't trying to save after a life luxury. I wasn't spending my salary on expensive holiday every month. I wasn't buying any designer things. I was just trying to live. And that's when I started asking myself a question that honestly made me uncomfortable. Why does it feel like I'm working so hard, but I'm still struggling to save my money? That question really stayed with me, because I knew I was working. I knew money was going to come in. So why did it feel like there was never enough left? And the moment I thought about it, the more I realized that the answer wasn't sitting inside one particular expense. It was sitting inside my entire life, because my money wasn't only paying for me. It was paying for home, food, going to work, for the children, for all the ordinary things that make up an ordinary life. And somehow those ordinary things were adding up to something that don't feel ordinary at all. But there was another part that There was another part of this that I don't think people always see. When you're living abroad, people sometimes look at you and think about the opportunities. You stay in the UK, you earn in pounds, the fact that you're going to work, and maybe they think at least she's doing well. And I understand why they might think that, because from the outside, it can look like you're doing fine, but they don't see what happens when you close the door at home. They don't see you looking at your bank account and mentally calculating what still needs to be paid. They don't see you thinking about the next payday before you have even finished dealing with the current one. They don't see the little worry that sits at the back of your mind when you're trying to make everything stretch. And I think that is one of the hardest parts for me, because I don't want to complain. I am grateful to be here. I am grateful for the opportunities. I'm grateful that my children are growing up here, yeah? But being grateful doesn't magically make everything affordable. And admitting that life is difficult sometimes doesn't mean I don't appreciate the life I have. It just means that I'm being honest about what it actually takes to build it. And the more honest I become with myself about that, the more I realize something else. I wasn't only tired from working, I was tired from constantly thinking about money. I was tired about what had already gone. I was thinking about what was coming, thinking about what I wanted to save, thinking about what I couldn't save, honestly. And sometimes, even when you're physically resting, your mind is still doing some calculations. And that's when I started wondering if working more was really the answer. Because my first instinct was exactly what I think a lot of people would think. If the money isn't enough, then maybe I just need more money. And that sounds simple until you remember that earning more usually means giving more of something, more hours, more taxes, more time, more energy. And that was where things became complicated for me, because I am not only a worker, I'm a mom, I have children. I have a home, I have responsibilities outside my job. And there is only so much of myself I can keep giving away, because I have to ask what is actually left in me. And that question changed the way I started thinking about income. Instead of asking only, how can I save more money? I started asking myself, how can I create more? And the question took me somewhere I didn't expect. It took me into the world of digital products. Canva, ChatGPT, ebooks, templates, learning how people were creating things online and selling them. And I wasn't an expert when I started looking into it. I'm still not. Honestly, I'm still figuring things out. But something about it gave me a different kind of hope, because for the first time, I wasn't only thinking about how to reduce the money leaving my account. I was thinking about whether I could create something that could bring money into it. And that distinction became really important to me, because there is only so much you can cut. You get what I mean? At some point, you have to look at the other side of the equation. For me, that meant looking at what I could build. But building something while working and raising children isn't as easy as it looks either. There are days when I'm motivated. There are days when I have ideas. Days when I tell myself I'm going to sit down and work on my digital products today. And then life happens. Children need me. Work takes the energy. The house needs attention. I have cooking to do. And suddenly, the things I was so excited about gets pushed to another day. And then another day. And that's another part of my story that I don't want to pretend doesn't exist. Because sometimes I'm not struggling because I don't have ambition. Sometimes I'm struggling because I'm trying to fit one more dream into a life that's already very full. And maybe that's why my journey feels so personal to me. Because I don't want to become wealthy just so I can say I'm wealthy. I want a breathing room. I want to know that an unexpected expense won't completely destroy my plans. I want to be able to save without feeling like I'm taking money away from something else that needs it. I want to build something that belongs to me. And most importantly, I want to know that I'm not going to spend the next 10 years simply working, paying bills and starting again, because that thought scares me. The thought that you can work for years, be responsible, take care of everyone, and still wake up one day wondering where all those years went. And maybe that's why I've become so determined to figure this out. Not because I have the perfect financial plans, I don't. Not because I have already made it, I haven't. But because I don't want this to be the end of my story. I want this part or to be the beginning of something. And that's what I'm trying to build now. Slowly, imperfectly, while working, while raising the children, figuring out life in a country that wasn't originally home. And maybe that's the part I wish more people understood about immigrants. Sometimes we are not just trying to earn money, we are trying to build an entire new life with the money we earn. And those are two different things, because when I first came to the UK, I thought the difficult part would be getting here. Now I realize getting here was only the beginning. The real challenge was everything that came afterwards. Learning how expensive life could be, learning how quickly money could disappear, learning how difficult it could be to save while taking care of a family, learning that working hard doesn't automatically mean you will feel financially comfortable, and eventually learning that if I wanted different financial future, I wouldn't come I couldn't only think about saving money I had. I also had to think about creating more money. And I am still somewhere in the middle of that journey. I haven't reached that part where I can tell you this is exactly how I solved it, because I haven't solved it. I am still trying, learning, watching my money, trying to save, and still trying to build. And some months are easier than others, but at least now, when I look at my bank account, I don't immediately blame myself. I understand my life a little better. I understand where the money is going, and I understand why simply saying save more never felt like enough for me. Because the truth is, I didn't come to the UK just to earn pounds. I came here because I wanted to build a better life, and I'm still building it. One paycheck, the one decision, one mistake, one lesson, one small step at a time. And maybe the most surprising thing I have learned is that the story I thought I was going to tell about moving abroad isn't actually the story I am living. I thought my story would be about finally earning pounds and making money or saving more. But now I realize my real story is about trying to build a life with them. And that story is still being written. Thank you for watching to the end of this video. If you're an immigrant mom, please follow and let's build together.